Hi everyone, my name is Julie, and today we're exploring maybe the most mysterious language out there, the language of the people who created the first civilization and the first writing system, Selim, and welcome to the Sumerian language. Sumerian was a language of an ancient and lost civilization, forgotten for 2000 years and rediscovered only in the 19th century. Sumerian was spoken in southern Mesopotamia between 5th and 2nd millennium BC. Around the 2nd millennium BC, the spoken language was completely replaced by Akkadian, a Semitic language from northern Mesopotamia. But Sumerian was preserved as a scholarly language for some time. It functioned similarly to Latin in Middle-aged Europe. It was studied in schools and was used for various types of text, from official documents to religious hymns. The last examples of Sumerian writings are dated from 100 BC. Who were the Sumerians? That's a hard question, as Sumerians themselves were apparently not very interested in who they were and where they came from, so they didn't really write anything about it. Sumerians never even called themselves like that. This term comes from the Akkadian word Shumero, and this is how the Akkadians call the area of southern Mesopotamia. Sumerians used to call this land Kingir, and it's still a big question in linguistics as to how Kingir became Shumer, as a transition from K to Sh is very unusual. Sumerians actually called themselves Sangir, which literally translates as black-headed, and there are many hypotheses on what that could actually mean. The first intuition is that Sumerians were literally black-headed, like Africans or Dravidians. The latter inhabited ancient and modern Hindustan and possibly even ancient Iran, so not too far away. However, on their own images, Sumerians don't look particularly dark, and their features don't seem much different from the neighboring Semitic people. Though, of course, these images are very standardized, but still, if they had dark skin, maybe they would have shown it, maybe. But the second hypothesis is that the Sumerians come from somewhere where people surrounding them had a considerably lighter skin color, so they were black-headed compared to them. And the third hypothesis claims that the name black-headed doesn't refer to skin color, but to the status. It was a way to describe civilized people as opposed to barbarians. Interestingly, similar opposition exists among the Sino-Tibetans, where people call themselves black-headed as opposed to the red-faced, those who did not know king rulership. It could be that the Sumerian name had a similar connotation. But wait, are then Sumerians and Sino-Tibetans, the ancestors of modern Tibetans and Chinese, related? Actually, for some time, Sumerian language was included into the Sino-Caucasian hypothesis, which links several language families into a microfamily that has a connection older than 10,000 years. But recently, Sumerian was excluded from this hypothesis as there was no linguistic proof to back it. So maybe some Proto-Sumerians were in contact with Proto-Sino-Tibetans, and that's why they have some things in common. Another curious similarity is the Sumerian word for god and sky, Dingir, which is very similar, suspiciously similar to the word for sky of some Central Asian tribes, Tengir, and the Chinese word for sky, Tian. Sumerians themselves mention only two places outside Mesopotamia. Firstly, it's Dilmun, a land where, according to them, all the people, all the humanity came from, and which is now identified as the island of Bahrain. And we do find Sumerian artifacts from the 4th millennium BC there. So maybe Sumerians colonized southern Mesopotamia from the sea and also got Bahrain in the process. The second location is Arata, a land somewhere to the east where they had the same Sumerian names and prayed to the same gods, and which was known as a land of skilled artisans. Of course, we have no clue as to where exactly this Arata was situated. Could have been Iran, could have been India, linking Sumerians to the mysterious Indus River civilization. In reality, the only thing that we can almost confidently say about Sumerian origins is that they were not probably native to Mesopotamia. What's more, and now it's really shocking information, that it's even possible that Sumerians didn't create the first civilization. The first agricultural society in this area is called the Ubaid culture. These were also the people who established the famous Sumerian cities there, Ur, Uruk, Lagash, many others. It is highly probable that these Ubaid people weren't Sumerians, as these city names don't seem to have a Sumerian etymology. Right now, researchers have identified at least 2 possible pre-Sumerian languages in this area. One of them was nicknamed the banana language, as the known words from this language have the same syllable structure as the word banana. Bunene, Zababa, Kubaba, Inanna, Igigi, Aruru, these are names of some Sumerian gods. Sumerian, on the other hand, was predominantly a monosyllabic language. What could be even a bigger perspective shift is that the first writing system, the thing that Sumerians are most famous for, maybe was not even invented by them, but again by the Ubaid people. Needless to say that no one has a clue who these hypothetical Ubaidians could have been. The earliest writing system, also known as cuneiform, was actually pictograms or simplified images of a word. The style of writing appeared in the 4th millennia BC in the ancient city of Uruk. The writings on the clay tablets from that time are purely utilitarian and administrative, like how many sheep were given to the king and so on. Even the word order was not transmitted as in the spoken language, as the writing was only needed to say who did what or gave what to who. With time, though, Sumerian civilization developed, and so did their writing system. Sumerians were using writing to transmit every imaginable piece of information, from history, religious hymns and royal decrees, to personal letters and recipes. Of course, pictograms were not enough to transcribe complicated phenomena, so the writing followed the rebus principle. So, for example, for the word gi, to return, they used the pictogram for read, pronounced also as gi. So in some sort it became a syllabary, and in other languages which adopted Sumerian cuneiform, like Akkadian, Hittite, Ancient Persian, Elamite, and other, it was used as a syllabary only. As I already mentioned, starting from the 2nd millennia BC, Sumerian was no longer a spoken language, but it was actively studied by the Akkadian scholars. Because the pronunciation of Sumerian was not always obvious from writing, Akkadian composed dictionaries where they indicating the pronunciation of Sumerian words with Akkadian cuneiform. They used these dictionaries in their schools to teach young students the Sumerian language. Today, for us, these dictionaries are an invaluable source on Sumerian phonology. Of course, we reconstructed through the double prism of first Akkadians and then modern scholars reconstructing Akkadian. So obviously it can have terrible imprecisions, considering especially the Sumerian and Akkadian were extremely different languages, and Akkadian scholars might not have indicated sounds that weren't present in Akkadian. Nevertheless, this is what we have for now. First of all, vowels. We know of 4 vowels, A, E, I, U. However, that's not a very symmetric system, so quite unlikely from the linguistic point of view. And also some earlier Akkadian dictionaries distinguish between U and O, but not the later ones. Also, it is hypothesized that Sumerian might have been a tonal language, because it has a very high amount of homophones, meaning words that sound the same but have a different meaning. From the consonants, these were the ones that were reconstructed. We don't see any particularly crazy sounds here. The most unusual sound could be this ng. But again, it's very likely that this phonology is incomplete or even incorrect. We know very well how the Sumerian language was structured. It was an SOV language, it was an agglutinative language, so meanings were attached to roots with prefixes and suffixes. Like in this example, the verb has 4 prefixes and 3 suffixes. Sumerian also had the ergative case, the same as what we saw in Basque language, for example. And yes, Sumerian was compared to Basque, and no, not related. The ergative case is similar to the passive voice. So let's compare a phrase where the king is in nominative, Lugal ea ikur. The king entered the temple. And here the king is in ergative, Lugale e mundu. The temple was built by the king. We see an ending appearing to indicate a case. And in Sumerian there are actually 9 cases. The nouns are split in 2 genders: conscious beings, humans and gods, and unconscious beings, animals, plants, objects, etc. Similar system to Tamil, by the way. And yes, Sumerian was compared to Tamil, and no, not related. Also, plural tense was used only for the conscious beings, and it was formed by reduplication. Like Lu, person, becomes Lulu, people. Also, when there is an adjective with a noun, in the plural it is the adjective that is reduplicated, like in Lugal gal gal, great kings. With numerals there is an interesting story. Sumerian has a decimal system with traces of a system based on 5, like 6 is 5 plus 1, 7, 5 plus 2, etc. There are also traces of a vigesimal system, 40 is 20 times 2. And it also incorporates a sexagesimal system, where the count is based on 60s. Like that, 240 is 60 times 4, 600 is 10 60s, and 3600 is a separate word, shar. We still use the same system to this day. Our division of time, 24 hours a day, 60 minutes in an hour, all that was invented by Sumerians and all comes from those faraway times. There is still so much we don't know about Sumerian, but I hope I could at least make this mysterious language just 1% less mysterious. Sumerian has been compared to probably every single language and language family out there, but no connection was proven. Also, it's important to mention that Sumerian presented in this video, and the one known the best to researchers, is the official version of Akkadian schools, when the language was already dead. But of course, the language used to be alive. It evolved, it had varieties and dialects. Actually, we know of one such variety. If the standard version is called Emegir, or native tongue, there is also the Emesal, refined language, which appears in literary texts spoken exclusively by female characters in emotional moments, or also used by the Gala priests in some particular incantations. The differences with Emegir are mostly in pronunciation. She instead of Hazi, or Eze instead of Udu, etc., etc. There should have been so many more other varieties that we know nothing about. But I hope we continue discovering more and more about this language, as it is the main key to the origins of human civilization. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more and check out my Patreon, where my top tier patrons, here are their names, vote on the next language. And you can vote too. He is back! All hail the great Lugal Gabi. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next exploration.